The rumble of motorcycles filled the quiet street long before anyone saw them. Dozens of chrome beasts, black leather jackets, and roaring engines rolled down the neighborhood like a thunderstorm on wheels. And at the center of all that noise, sitting in her small living room with her hands trembling around a chipped coffee mug, was a woman named Valerie Johnson, a single mother who had never expected that one simple act of kindness would change her life forever. Now, I know you're wondering what in the world happened to make a group of Hell's Angels show up at her door. Stick with me until the end, because this is not just a story about bikers and a woman's kindness, it's a story about humanity, respect, and how the smallest good deed can ripple out to places you'd never imagine. And if stories like this move you, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, because what happens next will stay with you long after you finish watching. It all began on a hot summer afternoon at a dusty gas station just outside the city. Valerie had been running errands all morning, her mind heavy with worry. Bills were piling up, her landlord had been knocking for rent, and her little boy Marcus needed new shoes for school. Life hadn't been kind lately. She had just enough money in her purse to get some gas and pick up groceries for the week, but even then, she was stretching every dollar. That's when she saw him. A tall man in worn-out leather leaned against a massive Harley-Davidson, his face rugged, his hair gray at the temples, and his tattoos curling down his arms like old scars. He wore a vest patched with the unmistakable emblem of the Hell's Angels, a symbol that made most people cross the street or whisper in fear. But right now, he didn't look intimidating at all. He looked stuck. His card kept declining at the pump, his wallet empty. The way he shifted his weight, you could tell pride was keeping him from asking anyone for help. Valerie's instincts kicked in. Maybe it was the way his shoulders sagged with defeat, maybe it was the way the sun beat down on him, or maybe it was just because she knew exactly how it felt to not have enough. Without hesitating, she stepped up. "Hey," she said softly, "don't worry about it. I'll cover you." The biker looked at her in disbelief. "You don't have to do that," he muttered, his voice gravelly, his eyes scanning her like he was trying to figure out if she was serious. But Valerie had already swiped her card, pumping gas into his bike. "It's just fuel," she smiled. "We all need a little help sometimes." For a moment, the tough man just stared at her, as if he couldn't understand why a stranger, a black woman who clearly had her own struggles, would reach into her own pocket for him. He gave a slow nod, his lips pressed tight, then muttered a low, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." She didn't expect anything more. She wasn't trying to get anything out of it. She just knew what it was like to be down and out. After all, kindness doesn't cost much. But what Valerie didn't know was that her small act of compassion had set something in motion that would shake her whole world. The next morning, the sound of engines shattered the stillness of her neighborhood. One by one, motorcycles pulled up in front of her modest little home. Neighbors peeked through curtains, some even calling the police, terrified at the sight of so many notorious bikers gathered on their street. Valerie, clutching Marcus close to her side, opened the door cautiously. And there he was, the same man from the gas station, standing tall, his eyes softer than yesterday. Behind him, dozens of bikers removed their helmets, each one of them watching her with quiet respect. He stepped forward. "Ma'am," he began, his deep voice carrying weight, "you didn't just pay for gas yesterday. You showed me kindness when I had none left in the world. I went home and told my brothers what you did. And we don't let something like that go unanswered." Before Valerie could speak, the bikers started unloading things off their bikes, bags of groceries, new clothes for Marcus, even an envelope stuffed with cash. Valerie's knees nearly gave out as tears filled her eyes. She tried to protest, shaking her head, saying she couldn't accept it. But the man held up a hand. "You gave when you had so little," he said firmly. "Now it's our turn." It wasn't just about money or supplies, it was about being seen, about being valued. For so long, Valerie had felt invisible, like the world had forgotten her. But in that moment, with a group of hardened bikers standing on her lawn with genuine gratitude in their eyes, she realized something powerful: kindness never disappears. It always comes back, often when you least expect it. The bikers didn't just leave supplies that day. They kept coming back, checking on her, making sure Marcus had what he needed, fixing things around the house, even escorting her home at night when she worked late shifts. To her neighbor's shock, Valerie, the quiet single mom, had become the most protected woman on the block. Of course, not everyone understood. Some people whispered behind her back, warning her about dangerous company. But Valerie had seen their hearts. She knew better. And she would never forget the moment Marcus, clutching his brand new shoes, looked up at her and said, "Mom, angels really do exist." She hugged him tight, smiling through her tears. "Yes, baby. Sometimes they just ride motorcycles." And so, what started with a single act of kindness at a gas station became a bond that changed lives. It proved that goodness exists in every corner of the world, even in the places society tells us to fear. So if you've ever doubted whether a small gesture matters, remember Valerie's story. You never know how far your kindness will reach or who it will touch. And if this story moved you like it did me, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful, true-to-life stories. Because sometimes, the world just needs to be reminded, kindness is louder than hate, and love is stronger than fear. The engines roared like thunder across the quiet little neighborhood, a sound that made curtains twitch and dogs bark nervously. People whispered behind half-closed doors, convinced trouble had arrived. Mothers hurried their children inside, while men frowned from their porches, crossing their arms like they were preparing for the worst. But inside a modest home, Valerie Johnson stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest as she pulled Marcus, her 8-year-old son, close. The sound of dozens of motorcycles stopping right in front of their house felt unreal. It wasn't something she ever imagined, especially not after the events of yesterday. Her mind raced back to that moment at the gas station. She hadn't thought much of it. Just a man who needed gas, a card that wasn't working, and her own gut telling her to help. But now, staring at the leather jackets with the Hell's Angels insignia stitched on the back, she wondered, had she made a mistake? The man from yesterday stepped forward, towering in her doorway. His face was rugged, his eyes sharp but not unkind. Behind him, the other bikers stood in a strange silence, their presence overwhelming. "Ma'am," he began, his voice low and steady. "We're not here to scare you. We're here because of what you did." Valerie tightened her grip on Marcus, her throat dry. I just paid for some gas. It wasn't a big deal." The biker shook his head slowly, his gray-streaked hair brushing his shoulders. "To you, maybe. To me, it was everything." The memories of the previous day flooded back. Valerie had been standing at the pump, counting the bills in her purse, knowing she had only just enough for groceries and gas for the week. That's when she saw him, the man leaning against his Harley, trying his card again and again, his jaw clenched with frustration. She could have ignored him. Everyone else did. But something about his posture, the way his pride seemed to be fighting with his desperation, pulled her in. And before she could talk herself out of it, she swiped her card and filled his tank. "Don't worry about it," she'd said, offering him the kind of smile she herself rarely received anymore. The way his eyes softened, the way his voice cracked slightly when he whispered, "Thank you," had stuck with her all night. She knew she'd done the right thing. What she didn't know was how deeply it had touched him. Now, standing at her door, he gestured to the men behind him. "These are my brothers. I told them what you did. And we don't let kindness like that go unpaid." One of the bikers stepped forward, carrying a heavy bag of groceries. Another carried a box full of clothes. A third dropped an envelope thick with cash into Valerie's stunned hands. She gasped, her knees trembling. I can't accept this," she stammered, shaking her head. "I didn't help you for money or anything like this." The man's gaze softened. "We know. That's exactly why we're here." The neighborhood watched in awe as the feared bikers unloaded gifts onto Valerie's porch: food, clothes, supplies, things she hadn't even been able to dream of affording. Marcus's wide eyes sparkled with wonder as he clutched a brand new pair of sneakers from one of the bags. "Mom, look," he exclaimed, bouncing with excitement. "They're my size." Valerie's heart swelled and broke all at once. Tears filled her eyes as she knelt beside him, brushing her fingers over his hair. The biker leader crouched down too, his rough hands surprisingly gentle as he looked Marcus in the eye. "Your mama's got a heart of gold, kid. You don't forget that." She's the kind of person this world needs.